You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
All our shoe fans, welcome back to the Shoe In Show. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Jasmine, how are you?
Fantastic.
Awesome. This is the Shoe In Show. It's basically shoe radio. We talk about all things footwear. In particular, we focus in on the footwear business side. So how shoes are designed, how they're developed, produced, shipped, sold all over the world, and all the different things that goes into that process. All the different people working on it across our industry, trying to help enhance conversations around different ways. What's really cool about our industry, Matt, is that everybody does it differently, right?
Yep. Everybody
has a different culture, has a different brand, has a different product, something really cool and unique putting out there to engage with consumers, get feedback, find a following, etc. And the brand that we're talking to today is no different.
Yeah, Andy, it's an honor and privilege to have Matt O'Toole, who's the president of Reebok brand, and Reebok is doing a lot of cool things. And so to have Matt on the show is going to be awesome because we want to talk through a lot of the innovations that Reebok is focused on. And so, Matt, welcome to the Shoe In Show. It's an honor to have you.
Likewise, real pleasure to be here.
So let's get started. The first time I really thought about Reebok in a major way was when Dee Brown did the no-look slam dunk in the slam dunk championship back in the early 90s, and he did the Reebok pump. Yep. And that was kind of, as someone who's in his 40s now, that was something that is an iconic moment. And so, Matt, I want to kind of think through Reebok from that moment forward. It's a totally different brand, but you guys are still innovating in a lot of different ways. And so as I approach that moment, how do you think about the brand and your career and where you're leading Reebok in the 21st century as it relates to that iconic moment in sports history with Dee Brown?
Yeah, that certainly is one of the really big moments in the Reebok brand story. Interestingly enough, before we kind of get into your question, the pump technology is still a really relevant part of our business today. We have a shoe called the Pump Fury that is our number one shoe in Asian markets, and every year there's something new and exciting happening with pump technology. So for the most part, what Dee Brown kind of set in motion almost 30 years ago is still happening today for us. So, but as it relates to the Reebok story, I think it's also really emblematic because Reebok's always been at its best when it has been bold and disruptive, both from a product and technology point of view, but also in the way that it's marketed itself through the years. And that kind of core, provocative, daring nature is still who we are today. We've definitely focused more of our energy on our foundation. I don't know if you guys are even old enough to know this, but Reebok really got its start as a modern global brand with women's fitness in the early 80s with a shoe called the Freestyle. And being a brand that at the time was really dedicated to focusing on women's empowerment, women having muscle, sweating, working out, that was Reebok's thing. And we've really gone back to this simple idea that everybody's a lot better when they're moving. And too many people today, while they're sports fans, haven't been moving as much. And so our job and what we try to do every day is keep people focused and encouraged on some kind of movement in their lives.
And is that the genesis of why you have such a strong collaboration with CrossFit and that whole community, which is so passionate about movement and maintaining that movement?
It definitely is. I mean, we've partnered with some of the biggest fitness franchises, if you will, in the world today with this kind of, we're looking for this one element when we do that, and that is the the kind of social connectivity that keeps people coming back to fitness. Whether it's our partnership in the past with the Spartan Race or Ragnar today or Les Mills or CrossFit, whatever it might be. But these are group communities, and I think, we all know whether it's being on a team or part of some other organization, you keep coming back when you're accountable to a group. And so I think CrossFit's a great example of like this idea of community fitness, keeping people in it. And too often, people are, signing up at New Year's for their gym membership and putting their credit card down, but unfortunately not sticking with it. So we're trying to build our relationships with those things that actually have a little bit more connectivity with other people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things I think we're finding, I know you guys are finding, is that connectivity with millennials and beyond means ensuring that you have a sustainable conversation and you have a sustainable story as it relates to being a brand. And I know you guys have recently announced this new shoe that is the Forever Float Ride Grow, and what's really interesting about it is the first plant-based performance running shoe. We've seen a lot of plant-based and differing materials that have been dropped. You guys have had a plant-based shoe come out, but we haven't seen it in the performance space. And to think about the innovation that goes into that as you talk about developing this type of shoe, it's got to be massive. And for us, we're really excited about this because we've spent a lot of time as an organization guiding folks on the sustainability side and helping people develop their own narrative. But when it comes to performance, you guys have beaten everyone to the punch. So talk about this new product in ways in which it was difficult to kind of pull together, but also why you're bullish about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one thing a lot of folks might not realize is how sustainability has really become a big focus of innovation teams, particularly here at Reebok, where maybe in the past, if we use that Dee Brown example, you're really just trying to figure out how to make the athlete, run faster, jump higher. But we've definitely allocated a lot of our innovation resources now to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to reduce our environmental footprint. And that has meant that now 40% of all the materials in our products are recycled polyester instead of virgin polyester. But kind of the big opportunity, if you will, is to not make products at all out of petroleum-based materials, which most running shoes are made out of, but make them out of plant-based materials so that you've got a lighter footprint from kind of the whole life cycle of the product, meaning you're using plants that are absorbing CO2 during their life as opposed to petroleum that emits CO2 when you harvest it, whether that's drilling or fracking or whatever else. But then also by using plant-based materials, you're reducing the life cycle that's going to be around on the earth. So yeah, your question's absolutely right. We had figured out how to do it for kind of more casual products that you wouldn't work out in with a series of products we called Cotton and Corn. And that was basically a corn-based midsole with a cotton upper and did extremely well, a lot of receptivity from the consumer. And the question almost everyone invariably asks is, okay, how do we make shoes that people can actually perform in, work out in, and have the same experience they have with these petroleum-based products? And so that was the objective that we gave our innovation team. And mostly, as you expect, through a lot of trial and error, trying a whole bunch of different materials and processes, we landed on this. The big challenge, if you will, from a technical point of view, is the cushioning, because the corn-based midsoles were heavy and hard. How do you get that lightweight cushioning that you get? And so we landed on castor bean oil and a different approach to kind of expanding the molecules and then heat molding them together, ultimately to get the same kind of cushioning, same ride that you would get from other running shoes. So yeah, we're really excited about it. We're getting, we have our own Reebok Run Club with a number of Olympic level athletes who have been training in the shoe, and we didn't even tell them that it was a plant-based shoe, and the feedback has been really, really strong and consistent with our normal running shoe range, which slightly, unprompted plug here, the shoe that it kind of was based on just won Runner's World Gear of the Year,
there you go.
Forever Float Ride.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Congrats.
So it's definitely up against a tough benchmark as well.
I mean, not to give you any great suggestions, but a great suggestion would be to put popcorn in these shoes when you put them out at retail. Just an idea for your marketing team. Take it or leave it.
Hey, I will say,
I'm passing it on. I like it.
I do have a pair of cotton and corn, and when you smell them, and I don't know if it's just a placebo effect because I expect to smell something like it came out of a field, but it does feel like it's like it's organic in some way, or it smells that way.
It does. I think they're right. They do. The materials smell different. We all have, different kind of smells that we're used to, the new car smell or the Christmas tree smell, whatever. And footwear has a smell. And you're right. Cotton and corn, the more, plant-based materials have a different smell than the traditional shoes.
When I talk to companies about sustainability initiatives, you've got a lot of people in the industry talking about it, but not a lot of people doing anything about it. Maybe can you share a little bit about how long it took you guys to work on this project, and how many people worked on it? I mean, the chemistry of what you were explaining about trying to take corn and make sure that it had the correct properties of the right density, the right elasticity, the right kind of give, but also be very lightweight. That's an achievement that I think, as people pick up the shoe and run in it, probably think it's very cool, but may not consider how much work went into that, both in terms of engineering and chemistry. Can you talk a little about how long it took and how many hands were involved in the project?
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about, we've been on this kind of continuum, first starting with shoes that would just function in kind of a lifestyle way. And that project now is well over 3 years old. But, I would say it's been 2 years ago that we really turned the turret to performance products and trying to solve this particular issue around cushioning and weight. And, we've had, I can't quote the exact number of people, but a significant part of our innovation resources from a people and time point of view on this. While we've also, partnered with some companies that have helped us to figure out exactly what might work best, particularly a company in Japan that hadn't had any experience making footwear before, but we felt like they had an opportunity to help us with the way that they produce products for other industries. And so that's one example, but there's been a handful of other companies outside of Reebok that have played a role in whether it's the midsole, the upper, what we chose to do, even for like the eyelets. These kind of things all had to be, thought about. There's bloom algae in the sock liner, and that's a different company that harvests bloom algae, et cetera. So it took a village.
Yeah. I think it's a great point, because I think some people forget, you don't need to go at this alone inside and spend a huge investment, because the experts are all outside doing it in other industries. You just had to have an innovation team that's willing to look around and find the right solutions and pull it together. And it is hard work to do that, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like inside the industry, we're so cursed with knowledge about, we've done this for 30 years, that it's hard to break through that culture of saying, well, do we really need to do this for another 30 the same way? Can we make something a bit different? My guess is, and you could tell me, but my guess is the guys and gals who are working on this at your company were super excited about making this shoe about something that's really meaningful and impactful for our environment.
Well, I think you make a really good point about innovation, though, that, I think we all have this kind of image of the white lab coat and the smoking beaker and some kind of invention. But, the best people in innovation today are kind of the more creative people who can kind of imagine what existing or developing technologies could do for your product. And so a lot of it is having the ability to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, as opposed to inventing the puzzle itself. And, that's really the secret sauce, I think, today, is because your point is, that we happen to, be in an area where we have 128 startups around here, and the ideas that are flowing, and so many of them do have applications for our business, but it takes that real creative mind to figure out how it might work to solve a problem we have. And I think that not only is the idea of being more eco-friendly important to our company and the people who work here, but the consumer is really demanding that we do a better job. So more and more we have to dedicate our resources to making this happen.
Yeah. So in talking about consumers, while your marketing team is popping that popcorn, you guys have unveiled a new branding logo as you guys kind of refocus. So it's really interesting. You guys releasing this shoe, making a commitment, I think, by 2025 that you'll eliminate the virgin polyester in your supply chain, making those kind of sustainability commitments, launching a new brand logo. It sounds like it's a really exciting time. What was the impetus behind, updating the logo?
Yeah, it really is consumer focused. I think, for many years we've had this approach, and some of our competitors as well, where you delineate your performance products from your lifestyle products with different logos and brand marks. But more and more, the consumer is saying to us, look, I'm living this kind of active life from the gym to what I think fashion is as one thing. I'm not just buying products to work out in, I'm buying sportswear for every day, and that I want to be able to kind of like mix and mash this whole offering. And so by bringing this all together under our most recognizable mark, which is our vector symbol, has been a real positive thing in terms of the early reaction that we're getting from consumers. But it really is a recognition that, sportswear is not about just working out. It's really about consumers kind of self-identifying themselves as active people, and that's, maybe the same way somebody might, self-identify themselves as a motorcycle rider with a leather jacket. So they're wearing it 24/7.
Now, Matt, let me, speaking of consumers, we find ourselves in this kind of perfect storm where e-commerce is just exploding, right? And it's all about direct to consumer and how we can how our companies can invest in that technology and in that marketing and pushing product to those consumers on shorter runs, on more unique product, on custom, the ability to customize if possible. How is the Reebok of 2020 different from the Reebok of 2015 or 2016? What are some of those growing pains you've gone through, and how are you looking ahead to the next 5 years and the ways in which consumers are changing?
Well, there's just no question that the way consumers are shopping and gaining their information, even the kind of key purchase influencers, have changed dramatically in the last decade. And this has definitely led, companies like Reebok and our brother brand Adidas, and to really focus on making sure that the consumer experience in the digital environment is as good as it can be. And, what it has led to is we today, certainly the fastest growing part of our business is our own sales directly to the consumer on our .com sites around the world, but certainly led to us, I think even more importantly, having this kind of like immediate feedback from the consumer that we can use to kind of read and react and quickly adjust, that maybe just wasn't the case in the business a decade ago, where the only real feedback you had is you went out a year ahead of time and sold in the range. Then the range landed, and you tried to figure out what was happening at retail, and there's some sources of data, but you were so far removed from being able to kind of immediately see what the consumer was interested in, what their feedback was. And this feedback loop, I think, regardless of whether it's sold by one of our wholesale partners or whether we sell it directly, is the big kind of game changer, because we come in every morning and, we're turning the dials of our marketing plan based on the feedback we're getting from the consumer. And I think that this kind of sensitivity to what's happening is making us much more relevant to the consumer.
And you guys, just perusing your site, you're just well suited with both. We're probably at the tail end of it, but this retro craze that everyone was involved in. So you have a lot of that retro product. Even now, looking at the top sellers on your website, a lot of great retro product that we grew up with and know and love. And you couple that with the innovative product on the sustainability side, and you just seem to kind of cover every aspect of the industry, no matter where the trend lines are headed. Is that the way you think of product assortment and what you provide to the consumer in a diverse economy?
Well, I definitely think the consumer is moving pretty quickly, and you're right. Some of these retro trends are over, and new trends are coming. And I think Reebok's, uniquely positioned because we have this great archive and heritage, but also this big investment in technology to kind of move with those trends and deliver the consumer what they're looking for. I think, an interesting thing about our business, and a lot of people sometimes overlook, though, is there are like iconic staple footwear items that just stay to be a consistent part of the business. And so for Reebok, we're fortunate to have a few of those with our classic leather or our Club C, even our Nano training shoe that, regardless of where the current trends are, has a strong kind of installed base core group of followers. But you're right, there's a whole bunch of other movement kind of over that we're one of the few brands that's really uniquely positioned to take advantage of.
When you guys look at the current environment that we find ourselves in with our economy, and then also the global economy, are you guys, forecasting a really good 2020? Do you see, a lot of sales, a lot of continued engagement? And then, how does that look, the U.S. versus the rest of the world? I think we're always concerned about, there's all these conversations about a recession on the loom, even though the fundamentals of our economy are pretty strong. But I'm just wondering from your perspective, what you guys see globally, and what you guys are forecasting in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it's our view that, our industry, the athletic industry, is well poised for a solid year in 2020. Not only because of the economic trends, because there are some, questionable signs in some markets for sure, but more just because of the trend in terms of athletic and consumers' preferences in the way that they're choosing to dress. And so this is happening, in emerging markets, Middle East or India. It's happening in Asia and Latin America, that the consumer is kind of choosing athletic. I think the thing for a brand like Reebok that really is a challenger brand is, we've got to break through with the consumer and make sure that we're getting more than our fair share of attention and market share in a business that's, attracting a lot of new entrants as well, because of the existing scale, but also because of the growth projections.
So, Matt, as we kind of close out this conversation and we pitch it over to Jasmine for a fashion, footwear, and focus segment, as I think about the Reebok legacy, as I kind of go back to those Dee Brown days and where you're headed now, it's just one thing that really speaks to the brand as a company is that you guys are focused on innovation. And our companies, we have a variety of companies, Brown shoe side all the way to the athletic and everyone in between, but some of them do a really good job kind of focusing on innovation and sustainability, and others really struggle with it. They don't know what concepts to adopt, which ones to scrap, and how much investment goes into it. But as we close it out, kind of how do you view innovation as an investment, and how do you ascertain what are their best innovations to latch onto and which ones are just kind of gimmicks and not worth the time of day?
Yeah, it's a great question, because these, just to kind of bring you inside a little bit, what we do is, we meet every quarter with the senior team and our innovation team, and we make those kind of decisions, because there's a number of projects that you want to keep investing in, and there's other ones that you want to stop or reduce the investment in. And, a lot of times the filter for us are a couple things. One is, is it consistent with our brand? Is this going to be a technology people would expect from Reebok? And there's some historical technologies like pump that we want to keep investing in. There's also this idea of, the relevance that it has to the consumer. So we do a fair amount of concept testing with the consumer, and I think that that kind of helps guide the direction as well. But the last thing, today, more so than ever, is there's opportunities to invest that are, non-traditional, more in connected fitness and things like that make the waters a little murkier, but that we want to make sure that we're not just thinking about the product itself, but the overall consumer experience.
Awesome. There is one more thing before we go to Jasmine. We'll be just a promo, a plug for us, but we will be in Boston. I think it's February 6th.
Yeah.
Doing a sustainability roundtable where we bring brands like Reebok and other together to talk about, as an industry, how we set better standards for environmental performance, how we can work together on certain products that are not trade secrets or IP issues, but simple, helping our factories and helping our material suppliers become more sustainable. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, they can visit shoesustainability.com and get that information. But I did want to plug it because it's, talking about sustainability today with Reebok and what they're doing with their products and their commitment. It really rings true that it's not, for Reebok, from what you see, is they're making a commitment. It's not just a statement. They're actually producing products that are sustainable and making that full commitment going forward. So kudos to you guys and your team. I'm sure, the people who wear the shoe are going to love it, but I want to give props to the people who made it. I think that's a lot of work, a lot of sweat, hopefully not a lot of tears, hopefully a lot of popcorn that goes into it for the marketing to get it out there. But kudos to you guys, Matt.
Oh, thank you. And there were a few cheers along the way.
I'm sure.
Always are.
Jasmine, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, so my fashion footwear segment is to talk about trends, and Reebok is definitely trending, especially the year of 2019 and 2018. Actually, before some other relationships with brands that I've had growing up, Reebok was one of the first ones. Those were my cheerleading shoes. Everybody in the whole squad had a pair of them, a white pair. So I have a long-standing relationship with Reebok, and glad that I'm still wearing a pair even today. Also, celebrity collaborations have been super popular, and over the past couple of years, I really like the collaborations that have come out of Reebok because they're more strategic. Sometimes I feel like brands just reach out to the most popular, but I feel like Reebok really takes the time to do something that really makes sense. And two of the collaborations that I really like are one with Jazzare with the Unisex Club C85 shoe. They're like a dope sneaker that everybody can wear, men and women, so I love that. And then the Pierre Moss sneaker collaboration, and then there's a new one coming from Pierre Moss now. I don't know if the regular consumer can get a pair of them, but I've definitely seen it on celebs. And they look so cool. It's such a different shoe. It's not a knockoff of something we already seen before. So I really love the collaborations coming, and I hope to see some for 2020.
Yeah, we're super excited. But it's interesting that you mentioned Pierre Moss because Kirby Jean-Romain is the brainchild behind Pierre Moss, and he's such an innovative thinker and done such great work, not only in the product realm, but also in raising awareness for some really important causes. So we're particularly happy to have that partnership.
Yes. It's definitely a partnership that's needed. It makes a lot of sense, and we're getting a great product from it. So I'm happy about that.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on the show, talk about your new product drops, your innovation, your history. It really is an honor and privilege to have you on.
Likewise, loved being here.
Folks, this has been Shoein. This is the show that's about all the ins and outs of the footwear industry every week, Monday, no matter where you find podcasts. We ask that you go to shoeinshow.com to get all close to 200 episodes that we've done. We ask that you rate us, give us only 5 stars. We take nothing less.
That's right.
And,
only 5 stars, people.
And track us on Spotify, on LinkedIn, on Facebook.
We've got 91 countries now listening in across the world.
That's right. So we are global, folks, and we are here at shoeinshow.com. So again, On behalf of Andy and Jasmine, this is Matt Priest, and Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.